These books used to fill 3 shelves, 3 shelf bookcase at the old house, in the old collection. I got rid of many. Now I'm kind of like, whoa, why did I get rid of so many things? But for a long time, I wrote a newspaper column that was in 3 different papers overall, called My Strange New Mexico. And it was just weird stories of folklore and history and etc. from around the state. And New Mexico is a huge state, 5th largest state in the U.S., and a lot of just blank desert for wild stuff to happen. And it's kind of a canvas for the strange, I think. But that column was like a big thing for me for a long time in the late aughts. I remember once standing by a newspaper box on UNM campus because it was in the UNM paper at first, and hearing people talk about it, and it was like so awesome. It was like, whoa, this is like a movie where a character hears himself being discussed, you know. It was a whole weird saga, that column. It was briefly in the Albuquerque Tribune. It was in Daily Lobo. It was in Local IQ. I just drifted off daydreaming because I'm like, those are actually huge stories. I'm not sure that I want to go into the whole sagas of those columns and everything they brought into my life and how it all went down. Because if I told that story, I'd have to start with this epic prank that I was a part of in the year 2000, where I was part of a fake satanic cult that surprised my sibling and friends out in the desert, and my sibling, then brother, was totally in on it. Anyway, long story short, cut 2 years later, and I wrote a column about that prank from the perspective of the people who were pranked, and I called them up and interviewed them. And I didn't tell them that I had been connected with that prank until the article came out. It was like a twist final paragraph in the article. That was the whole idea, and that's why I interviewed him that way. But that was not a journalistic practice, and I was like thinking like a creative writer, and I wasn't schooled in either, really. I was just thinking, how can I get the best possible interview quotes and have the reveal have the most impact? That's not the journalistic way to think. That's the creative writer way to think. Don't do that. Anyway, thus ended My Strange New Mexico. I get to live online because the website for it was pretty popular for a while. But anyway, I still have all these research books, many of which are connected to it. There's a couple little interesting stories within this. I mean, when you get into the world of the weird, I love that quote from, I want to say Arthur C. Clarke, life's not only stranger than we know, it might be stranger than we can know. Like, how do we know that our chimpanzee, bonobo-like brains, not that much more advanced than those brains, how do we know we're even capable of comprehending the great mysteries, Who knows? We might have to. Maybe we're just capable of making ourselves capable of comprehending it. Like, I don't think people understand what the internet in our brains is going to do to essential humanity. That probably will happen. Right now, tech billionaires are out there killing chimpanzees, trying to implant, chips into their brains. We're going to see some crazy stuff. But also, imagine that we all have a giant collective mind that's connected to the internet. Won't that change our essential identities? I mean, we'll be a weird new god or something. Maybe there will be division and war between those that are a part of it and those that aren't. Anyway, my idea with the column when I wrote it, My Strange New Mexico, which went on for like 2 or 3 years when I was an undergraduate, which yielded to other writings about the strange. The website was really a cool part of it. It had a great comment section. Unfortunately, back in the day, Squarespace had a thing where, like, if your payment got canceled on the site, they just immediately deleted the site. So my wallet got stolen, I remember, and it took me a minute to, as it does, to get all my accounts and payments and things active again. Then the site went away, but it had so many comments. Some people were kind of mad about that. I got comments and emails about that. Like, this was a database of information. But I always just tried to be really impartial and be as skeptical as possible, and not try to debunk or prove or anything. Try not to take a side and just really look at it. And sometimes the stories for that all went deep. Like there was this great video clip of what looked like a UFO crashing at White Sands, New Mexico. It was kind of amazing. And I ended up just getting more and more information on it and doing more and more interviews until I really like found out what it was and where it came from. And I found the original clip that had audio and was much longer and got the whole explanation. And but I had like half of this like UFO community in following along because it was a known piece. I called those UFOs Will Crash after the J Church song. I was always posting new parts, and yeah, that URL, that website has since been taken over by some sort of bot, and they use some of my text from the original site, but they credit it to somebody else. I'm like, that's crazy. But I think I have Word copies of most of those things. Anyway, let's look at one of these shelves. So, I met this guy, Philip Mantle. He came here from England and wanted a guide around New Mexico. So we went to this area called the Box near Socorro, where he thought this film had been filmed. And it's probably a hoax, this video. Like there's a phone in it that didn't exist at the time and so on. Little details that don't work. But this is like a pretty thorough illustrated work from a perspective. He was an interesting person, and I had a great time with him going out to these sites, but everything he saw, he thought was connected to a UFO, something or other. He's all, that rock there was probably scorched when the craft went over in a vortex of fire. And I'm like, well, then so much of the desert in New Mexico has. All of Albuquerque's West Mesa looks like that, you know? Oh, I've seen that scene in the UFO Museum in Roswell. But that autopsy video was a big deal on like Fox TV type places back in the day. I had a very interesting day with Philip Mantle. He paid me to hold a boom mic sometimes too. He's all, I'll give you $100, take me around the desert. Something like that, I think it was. And I was just happy to meet the guy. It was really interesting time. In fact, I still have an undeveloped one of those disposable cameras from that trip. Yeah, I just found it. Alleged crash site. UFO. Socorro. I should develop that. That's got to be really old now. Like 15 years old. Old media. Oh, and books I wrote when I was a little kid. Yeah. So that's cool. I got to keep that one. I have a personal connection to that one. Oh, this is a great book. And this is by the guy who wrote all those popular urban legends books, Jan Brindvand. This might have been like a dissertation or something. It's real formal and different than his other books. But he's a real one. He's really done something with his epic study of folklore and urban legends. I would say the urban legend is defined and appreciated in the way that it is because of this person. The Scary Stories in the Dark books didn't hurt either. Scary stories to tell in the dark. Yeah, this is a good one. American folklore tells us something about America. It's interesting. This book I grew up with. I had so many of these like Reader's Digest and Time Life books were just kicking around my life, and they really did influence me because you end up reading them, spending time with them if you like the subject. I'm sure I read this book many times. Because that's just how cool I was. This was marked with a piece of pink paper. Why? Okay, now we've got a series. All right, this book has served as a guidebook for some very interesting expeditions for me a couple of times. 1988. Out to the Mystery Rock, the Los Lunas Decalogue Stone, using this book as a guide. Found the Ten Commandments written in Hebrew on the side of a boulder. I say it's from Frank Hibben. He was a known hoaxer, and he was the, not even a hoaxer, fraud, with like salt sites and things like that. He was the first person to write about it. It does, however, seem supportive of Mormon theology and the sort of things Mormons might write, but the text of the Ten Commandments in Hebrew on this boulder really match up with a drawing that would have been in a book in UNM's library at the time. Frank Hibben faked Sandia Cave. They've still never taken his name off things because he was such a big donor to the school. His house many times, his old house. That's an old email address. I've had this a long time. Please return. Were the early 2000s just a very possessive time? Was the leaded gasoline effect still going away? Oh yeah, but these books are fun. And Mexico does have its fair share of lore. I wasn't filming. I don't know when did I talk about this? What? I keep thinking I'm filming and then it looks like I'm not. Okay. Confused. Here's the follow-up to that one. Yeah, there's no end to interesting stories from New Mexico. My column had many similar topics to some of these, but Colorado. I remember there's a couple of good ones here. Oh, yeah, the lives of Bridie Murphy, a really interesting reincarnation story. Spooklets. Arizona. Mysteries and Miracles of Arizona. Mysteries and Miracles of California. I forgot I owned this one. Huh. Or that it existed. Interesting. It's a lovely cover. Texas. Jeff Radford, the editor of the Corrales Comet, gave me most of those a long time ago, because that newspaper was also printing these books. I think it was through him that I met Jack Kutz's daughter. But if I ever traveled to one of these places, I might bring a book like this with me, because I love to read stuff like this about folklore, etc. To places when I go to. Like, if you ever go to North Carolina, you got to read The Devil's Tramping Ground. That's a great book like this for North Carolina. If you ever go to the Mid-Atlantic, read Lighthouse Mysteries of the North Atlantic. That's a great book. Regional weirdness is a great topic. UFOs over Galisteo. Yeah, a lot of times, who knows what's up in the skies, But I don't doubt there's actual weird stuff in the skies sometimes. But a lot of times, eras of many sightings coincide with eras of fear about technological change. And not long after the start of the Industrial Revolution,